everyone. My name is Kim Gill, and I am a media director for the Brew, which is a new publication which focuses on the Black fans of rock, metal, and punk. And we built a new community online on Facebook. We have a big group, Black Rockers United. That's what the Brew stands for. And our philosophy is to educate everyone and to cultivate the community on Black people who love rock, metal, and punk music, and any type of alternative lifestyles or cultures, anything. So today I have Gabby Logan of the Tulips, and she's also a solo artist of Gabby Guitar. And she's been doing a lot of amazing things. Sis, you've been doing so many amazing things. Like this year alone, you took your time during the quarantine and you released 2 records, one after the other. You released Musicology, and then you also released the prison, the Prison of Life. I like that. I like that you took the initiative to put out your solo record and your band album at the same time, because a lot of the times, a lot of artists try to wait a few years before they go solo. But being that you are the founder, the front woman, the PR, the lawyer, and you are well versed in copyright and intellectual property, did that allow you to put out the albums faster?
Yes and no. I mean, the way that the band is set up is like the Tulips is Guitar Gabby and Guitar Gabby is the Tulips type of thing. So
Right.
the the reason why I released it under 2 different names, like Guitar Gabby and the Tulips, is because there's 2 different sides of my writing style. So I wanted people to
Right.
those different styles. So I would say, like, I think quarantine for everybody, like, and everything literally just halting at one time is really what helped me to finally like have the time to be able to record at home and
Right.
get it done in addition to like everything else that has to be done. But and thankfully we were able to actually get, because Prison of Life, I wanted it to be a live recording, so I was able to get everybody in the studio to record literally before it got really bad, where stay at home or stay in shelter orders were put in place by our city mayor. But so I'm
Mm-hmm.
really thankful that we were able to get all of that done. But like God's timing for all of this was just like impeccable. And
Right.
yeah, I'm really happy
Mm-hmm.
to get it out. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I noticed there was some similarities between the 2 records because on the Tulips album you had some of the same songs, but it was more instrumental. And then on Musicology we hear what the message is on the song.
Yeah.
So what was the difference between the 2 records that that you might want to share with the audience?
Musicology is more instrumental driven than Prison of Life, and I would also say that it features more of my love ballads like Sick of Love and Matters of the Heart.
Mm-hmm.
And so that album definitely represents a side of my writing and playing that people haven't heard before. Um, so I would definitely say that that's what Musicology represents. In Prison of Life, I wanted that one to be true to my rock and roll side of writing and my rock inspiration, while also
Mm-hmm.
bringing a message. And so, listening to each of the songs, and for people who joined our virtual release party, I kind of talked about the meaning behind each song. All together kind of represents this movement that has a similar mission to what I think Black people in America are saying right now, which is
Right.
matter. And like, we bring something to this country. We bring something, a lot of everything really to the table.
Yes, you contributed a great deal.
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And so we want our voices to be heard. And I think that music is one of the tools, one of many tools that can be used to help be the voice for people who are not being heard otherwise. So I wanted to bring that side, that
Mm-hmm.
mission, through the music for Prison of Life.
Yeah, and another thing I want to ask you, because I noticed that you are very outspoken about social justice issues and the events of this year in combination with the pandemic. It has been very stressful And we haven't been okay collectively as African Americans.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know that as a Black woman in the industry where it's white dominated, and many times you're told that you're not marketable to this audience, and you face a lot of struggles trying to make a name for yourself. How do you go about incorporating social justice issues, being that it's so intertwined with your identity and your personal life and your whole being in the industry where they challenge that?
I mean, honestly, I think that there's so much power that Black women carry by just being us. And I think that when we understand that power and we know how to use it to navigate through the ridiculousness in this white male dominated industry, I think there's a lot of magic in that. And so for me, my approach has always been, the industry and well, the world as a whole, but especially in the music industry, I think that there's this, we want Black women to be quiet or sit in the corner unless you're called on, or we only need you to do things if it's, sexually entertaining or things like that. And I'm not like, that's cool. I'm all for, a little leg, a little booty cheek. I'm all
Right.
But by that same token, I'm like, you're not going to tell me when I can and cannot talk, number one. Number two, if we're being like for real honest, pussy is power. Women run this entire world. Because if it wasn't, if we really did check out, this whole world would be shut down. So I feel like there's so much power in that. And so I think continuing to move despite what the industry says to me, because I've had reps, at some of my endorsement companies as recent as this year tell me that, diversity and inclusion is not something that they think they need help with, or they don't think that, that's something that's on their priority right now. But when it comes time to different manufacturing companies in the industry needing, a marketing boost to get their products to different audiences, who does everybody call? Everybody calls on Black women when it's time to get things done. So for me, I've always just been, empowered by seeing other Black women out there who are not going to be silenced by societal standards or by what people or, men in the industry tell us that we can and cannot do or put us in these little boxes. I'm not with all that. So my thing is, if you with it, cool. But if not, get on out my way because I'm not finna stop moving. So it's better advice for you to just get with the program.
Right. And I noticed that a lot of the time they say they want to be diverse, but they want to do diversity when it's tamed. But then, like, you could use Beyonce as an example. Like, she's been in a business for almost 20 years now. And she started off doing Destiny's Child, and then she was like made a name for herself in the industry and moving and movies and acting, and she also got endorsement deals. But once Lemonade came out, you saw the backlash against her. So I think it's important that we do this early on so that we know, so that people know that what we're about beforehand. I think that's the best way to do it. So were there any challenges you faced entering the industry, trying to get your name in, and trying to put your foot in the door?
I definitely there's challenges even now that I'm in the industry up to a certain level. There's challenges getting to the next level because a lot of people, they expect these cookie cutter women when it comes to playing instruments or when it comes to Black girls that play instruments. I think a lot of people look for a certain type of look or a certain type of sound or like, a certain, like, are you able to be in a certain type of clique within the industry? And if you don't fit with it, almost like high school, if you don't fit with it, you're considered, go sit at that other lunch table. Nobody wants to be bothered with you. But then when the nerd in school starts turning up and getting all the good grades and, becoming the class president and then becoming the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, then everybody wants to be like, right, exactly. But getting up to that level is, where it's very difficult. And honestly, I did an interview about this the other day that's going to be released soon. I kind of get very raw and emotional about the behind the scenes of what it's like because, I mean, being an entrepreneur in general, especially being a Black woman
Mm-hmm.
in this industry with a very strong voice and a very strong vision and game plan on how I'm going to get there, and it's very lonely. A lot of people don't understand
Mm-hmm.
it. A lot of people, they they understand it to a certain point, but then they want me to, adhere to only doing covers in order to make it to the next level, or, you know,
Mm-hmm.
don't show so much ass cheek, or maybe you should show some more ass, stuff like that. So, for me, it's it's challenging, but I'm an Aries, so we enjoy challenge.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's like it gives me more to work towards and work for. And one thing I was saying the other day in my interview about this is the word no to me doesn't mean no. That means find a different way.
Right.
I do
From
know.
the path to yes.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So it just inspires me more and more to keep pushing and keep grinding. But to say that it's not tiring would be a lie. It's definitely tiresome, and it's definitely frustrating some days to, get the door slammed on my face everywhere I go. But that one door that's open, that God has opened for me, I go through that, and all the other doors that I was trying to get into, now I just came through the back end, and it's very fruitful. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what I love about you is that you're using your experience and your knowledge and your background in law to teach people how to navigate the industry, especially women of color. You're
Yeah.
opening up doors for them, you're helping them secure endorsement deals. You have a podcast series called Like a Boss, where you bring these women on your platform and you have them discuss their experiences in the industry and their challenges.
Yeah.
And what I love the most about that is that you got ESP to endorse it, and
Mhm.
you partner with the Guitar Girl
Mhm.
World magazine. And I love that you're doing this because it does create a space. It creates the space, and then it also lets women who may be trying to get their foot in the door or who just started playing to know
Yeah.
you can do it. It's possible, and you can set your mind to anything that you want to do.
Yeah.
So, what inspired you to create the series, and did ESP have an issue with it, or how did they get on board to endorse it?
They actually, well, how it started was I had started writing. I started writing this series called Being a Boss with Guitar Girl magazine, and then shortly after starting that series, I was like, I think that it would be really dope to have a live stream where I'm able to bring other women onto the platform to talk about, the behind the scenes of being a boss, because everybody sees the outcome of the hustle. Everybody sees, the announcement about new endorsements or the announcements of going on tour or magazines, all that kind of stuff. But nobody sees how much work it is behind the scenes, and how many years of being told no, and how many years of heartache, and how many years of losing friendships and all that kind of stuff that come with being a boss. And so
Mhm.
I wanted to show a little bit of that behind the scenes, and also show that there are other women out there who are just like me, who are grinding and hustling every single day, and
Right.
they're getting the job done. But I wanted to show that. So I have been talking with ESP about their lack of diversity and inclusion. I'm one of two
Yeah.
Black people that are endorsed with them. And
Yeah, I think the other one is Diamond Rowe.
yeah, and
Yeah.
shout out to Diamond, actually, because Diamond and her band actually just charted on the rock charts for one
Yes,
of
they did.
so
They're doing a great job.
yeah, so that's really dope. But I really was like, ESP, y'all got to do better. Like, we have to do better, guys.
Thank you, sis. Thank you.
Let's get some more diversity in there. And so
Mhm.
they agreed to sponsor the series. So they send me some of their like specialty merch and different like products that I'm using as giveaways to help bring a bigger, or help expose this to a bigger audience, because I
Mhm.
excuse me, I think that there's the audience of the Being a Boss series is definitely other Black women out there and people who support that. But I think that for anything to become bigger, you have to go into avenues or audiences where you may not necessarily think that would be your first go-to, or audiences where people may not automatically accept you because you don't have a certain look. But to me, again,
Mhm.
like, that's all the more challenge. So that means white dudes in metal, who think
Mhm.
that they created rock and roll. Those are the type of people that I'm like, y'all need to, get in on this and listen. You need to listen and
Right.
because rock and roll was birthed out of, you know, Black culture. Sister Rosetta Thorpe and, you know, every other
Mhm.
Black woman that came before me, you know, creating a path for me to be able to do what I'm doing. So that's kind of
Mhm.
how that started. But I am thankful that ESP has been supportive. I think that there's some more support that can happen in other ways, more intentional diversity and inclusion support. But you know, I've been talking to them about that, and um,
Mhm.
we'll see what the outcome of that is. If there's, you know, if they have some intentionality behind it, we'll see because the outcome is always going to show, you know.
Right. And hopefully it does lead to like how they go forward with their marketing too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I would love to see that because I know when I was like 16, I go to Guitar Center. I seen probably one black woman on in the advertisements, and that was it.
Yeah, yeah.
Really. So yeah. Do you think that the industry is making strides to make more diversity or no?
Yes and no. I think yes to a certain degree. I think that a lot of manufacturing companies and businesses and labels are trying to make strides in being more diverse and inclusive only because Black people with regards to Black Lives Matter riots and
Mhm.
protesting happening this year and the lack of leadership in the office
Mhm.
presidential office. I think that all of those things are kind of fueling people of color in America to be like, y'all need to do better. So I think that a lot of companies in the industry are making those strides, but I don't know that there's any long-term intentionality behind it. So I would really like to see, that's why I say I would like to see what ESP and Ernie Balls and all of these other big name companies that are making money and becoming Fortune 500s on the backs and dollars of Black people. I would like to see what type of long-term strides they put in place to keep diversity and inclusion part of their mission.
Mhm.
I think that yes, you know, for right now it's cute, thanks. But you know, this is not the first time we've seen in history, you know, Black people saying, "Hey, you need to do better at X, Y, and Z," and then you
Mhm.
know, white companies have these diversity panels and discussions, and then it dies down after you know a year. But the companies
Right.
who have done more intentional long-term planning into actually making a change because they
Mhm.
recognize there's an issue and they want to change, like Nike recently I've seen has done a lot better in the last couple of years with regards to diversity and inclusion. But you know, companies like that are taking the time to put in, you know, the put their money where their mouth is what I'm saying. So yes and no. So
Right.
we'll see what this looks like next year.
Mhm.
Right now it's cute though.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's on trend now. But we're gonna wait for like 2025 to see if it's still on trend,
Right.
right?
Holler at me then. We'll see what it looks like.
Hopefully we do see something come of it. I hope so. And I hope that you continue to put in that work and do the best that you can because we really need it because we need to be included as well, especially the younger kids who are picking up an instrument for the first time and they don't see a lot of themselves in the genre or advertised in the genre, you know.
Facts.
So
Yeah.
yeah, what I want to know in terms of Black women entering the music industry, how can they protect themselves from some of the predatory practices of the music industry? And what I mean by that is like, by example, let's say TLC, because I last week I actually watched the movie for the first time, and I regret not seeing it sooner. But what we learned from that movie is how they got coerced into signing these contracts that left them penniless and they were being the workhorse for this record label and they weren't making any type of money for themselves. And then when they finally got down to the nitty gritty and they saw all the expenses they had to pay back that they didn't even ask for,
Yeah.
they really had to like scrap the label and get new management and make sure they understood what they were really signing. So what are some of the things that we can do as Black women in the industry to protect ourselves from some of these predatory practices from the record labels, and how can we ensure that we have like longevity for ourselves as well as our descendants?
I would say um knowing what you're agreeing to before you agree to it. I
Mm-hmm.
think that a lot of people get caught up in contracts and signing back contracts and not knowing what they're signing. And I think that there's nothing wrong with asking somebody, like if you don't know what something says, I don't think there's a problem with saying, hey, I don't really understand what this means. And, maybe having those people on your team who do know legal jargon and can guide you through whatever these agreements say, even if it's something, like a simple distribution deal. It may feel like a simple distribution deal right now, but, depending on what you're signing, could become something that's more detrimental to your career and the longevity of your career down the road if you're signing something where you're giving away the rights to all of your music. So I definitely think that, knowing what you're agreeing to before you agree to it, and having the team and the confidence to offer up, an amendment, or offer up, a counter offer if you're doing some type of, deal. There's nothing wrong with saying this doesn't work. These are my standards. Because that's the whole point of negotiating. Negotiating is two different parties coming to terms that they agree to in order to, dictate how the relationship is going to work. So you don't have to accept what somebody gives you first, because everybody's going to offer you like their lowest, to make sure that they can preserve their pockets. And so, that being said, I don't think there's anything wrong with coming back and saying, that's, thanks for your initial offer. However, these are my standards. This is my rate. This is, whatever. Send it back to somebody. And that's playing hardball. We're in the industry. So that's literally, it's a business. So you got to be business minded. And if you don't feel like you are, or you don't know where to find those tips, having people on your team that you trust that can help guide you through that is definitely important.
And what I also want to ask is like, yesterday Kanye West went on a huge rant on Twitter, like had a whole meltdown about intellectual property and how he needs to own the masters to his music, and how he doesn't own anything himself right now as an artist because the record label has all of his masters.
Yeah.
What is some of the important details about intellectual property that musicians need to know, as someone who has studied law and someone who practices law in the music industry?
What, can you repeat that?
I'm sorry. What are some of the most important details about intellectual property as someone who works as a lawyer in the music industry and someone who has practiced law?
I would say knowing how to copyright your stuff and knowing what it means when you're bringing in other people to share ownership of your rights and of your music. I think that that's very important, and a lot of people miss that, especially like when you're working in bands or working with other producers. A lot of times people, it's just, oh, that's my friend, that's the homie, so everything should be good. But it always starts off as, that's the friend, and then when money shows up, or whatever shows up, people can sometimes change. So I think that making sure that you understand and you're very, upfront about your business, like, these are my standards. This is what, I'm going to do, having all of your paperwork in line, all that kind of stuff. And just having like straight up business conversations, even with people that are friends. And those are typically the hardest conversations, because nobody wants to tell their friend, this is my song. I love you and I appreciate you and thank you for playing on this. I will pay you for your time, all that kind of stuff. But we need to have certain paperworks in place to make sure that both of us are protected.
Right.
So those can sometimes be the hardest conversations. But I would definitely say knowing how to make sure that you have ownership of your stuff and making sure you know how to copyright your stuff, because the Copyright Office is very expensive and they don't issue refunds and they do not transfer funds. So if you do something wrong the first time, you've lost your money and you have to do it again. So, yeah.
I didn't know that. I know that your father taught you about this process very early in life, and you've been copywriting every song you've ever written since you were very little.
Yeah.
So, was he the one that inspired you to pursue law?
Yes and no. I mean, I think that like growing up, I don't know that my parents definitely knew that there was something to learn about protecting your like intellectual property. My dad comes from law enforcement and my grandfather comes from law enforcement, and my mom and grandmother on the other side come from education. So those two combined definitely fueled my interest growing up to say, whatever path I go down, I need to understand the industry that I'm going to be in, and I need to understand and have the knowledge, and education behind that. So I'm able to protect my stuff, and I'm able to not only do that, but inspire other people to learn what they need to learn. So I'll definitely say it was a combination of my dad and my mom growing up, my grandparents on both sides growing up, and then my mom just pushing me to actually apply, because I didn't really plan on going to Vermont Law. I was done with school, but my mom was the one that was like, you should consider this. And, so that's yeah, that's been
And now you got that cushion now, right?
yeah, definitely.
And another thing about your education, you went to Spelman.
Mm-hmm.
I really love that about you, because we rarely have any Black rockers who attended HBCUs. And
Yeah.
I wanted to know, what has Spelman taught you about the music industry being a Black woman?
I would say honestly, I didn't learn a lot from Spelman in terms of like specifically being in the industry, but I will say that one thing that Spelman has given me that I don't think I would have gotten anywhere else, that has definitely secured how I navigate through the industry, is being a strong Black woman and knowing my worth in this world, and knowing, where I came from, who I am, and the other strong Black women in our legacy that, came before us and paved the way in every industry that that exists in this world. And then also just learning about how much Black women were a pivotal part in everything that you can think of, even during civil rights movement. Coretta was behind the scenes really being the strength that helped to push a lot of what we now have through. So I think definitely learning and knowing my worth as a Black woman, and knowing what I will and will not accept from, being in a business setting, to relationships, to friendships, just knowing my worth. I learned a lot of that from watching my mom and my grandmother growing up. And then from an educational perspective, that kind of rounded everything out when I graduated from Spelman. So if I could do Spelman again, I would.
And what was it like being a Black rocker at Spelman? Was it like a diverse crowd in terms of interest, or were you like kind of the odd girl out being a rocker in Spelman? Did they accept you, or
Um,
is it
it was
difficult?
definitely there were definitely moments where I did feel like the oddball out, but I had like 2 or 3 really close friends. One of them, Sierra, Sierra is I met her on my first day of school, and we
Oh, wow.
and the way that
Like,
we
you attended Spelman with Sierra?
yeah,
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
yeah. Well, not no no
Oh.
no. I'm sorry, no, not Sierra the singer.
Oh, okay.
Oh, child, no. My friend's name is Sierra Porter. I was like, wait, do you know Sierra Porter too? No. Yeah, no, my friend's her name is Sierra Porter, but we met on the first day of school. And the way that we met is in the Spelman has a white dress ceremony tradition. So everybody has to wear white dresses and pantyhose and all that kind of stuff. And my rebellious ass wasn't really trying to do all of that. So I wore a white dress and some combat boots. And I was in the cafeteria by myself eating. And my homegirl, Sierra, came up to me and was like, I like your boots. You look like you listen to rock. Have you heard of System of a Down? And I was like, we're best friends from then.
That's great. That kind of camaraderie.
Yeah. So it was, yeah, there were definitely moments where, I felt like, I'll ball out. And, but it was also really exciting because the more that I made friends with certain people and built like, my little network of friends, I learned that there were other young girls there that were also into music just as much as I was. And so I learned a lot from being friends with other women. And, really all you need is a couple really good friends. You don't got to be friends with everybody. So I was cool with, my handful of friends, and I'm still friends with to this day. So 10 years plus, I've been, close with those people.
And that's kind of like how you started the Tulips too, because you guys used to do background for Diamond or Crime Mob, and then you took that band and you made them the main act, Was that difficult to do? Because, a lot of the times women of color come into the industry trying to pursue careers in rock and metal, and they're only good enough to be someone's back live band, or that's what they're told. They're not really the center. Was it difficult trying to get the Tulips to the main stage?
I mean, a little bit, only because it was a new venture and only because I was still trying to figure out like how I wanted to maneuver and how I wanted to build this into a business, I was still trying to figure a lot of it out. So it was difficult in that sense. But and it was also difficult in the sense of just like scheduling. I mean, when you have to be, there are times where we had to be on set, video set for Diamond, and or be there early, and there was a lot of sitting around, and like I don't know, as an Aries and like a very type A organized person, I hate when
Right.
it's wasted. And so there were a lot of times where we would be on set with Diamond for like 12-hour days, and we're just sitting there for like the first 5 hours doing nothing. And it used to drive me up a wall because I'm like, we could have had rehearsal, like Txlips rehearsal, and then we could have done Diamond rehearsal, and then we could have came here and they still wouldn't have been ready. So
Mhm.
there was times like that. But I also learned fast. I mean, that's just the nature of the industry that you're in. Sometimes you're going to be, I mean, they're like fast forwarding to 2019 and 2020, there have been times where I've been on movie sets and video sets, and I'm just sitting around for a long time. But I mean, that's just part of the industry. So figuring out how you can be productive within the time that you have to be somewhere else is extremely important. So I have two phones. I call one my trap phone, and I got my regular phone. Off of both of those constantly. I bring my laptop anywhere that I can go,
Mhm.
stuff like that. So just figuring out how to make the most of the time that we did have, even when we were doing stuff for Diamond and sitting around, was very difficult. But we made it work. And then also just scheduling with like a lot of different people's work schedules and life schedules is very difficult. But
Right.
I was always able to make it work, and I'm happy that things worked out. So we got.
Mhm. And you got more to come, absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
one of the things I want to ask you about is that your mission in the music industry is to close the gap for Black women in rock and metal and extreme music. Um, how have you been going about that?
Um, I think just like really pushing and pushing and pushing to show
Mhm.
that I'm not I'm an independent artist, and I always have been, and it's
Mhm.
twice as much work. There's not a label supporting me, it's me supporting me. um
Mhm.
and it's difficult, it's twice as much work. But I also want to show that if you have a passion for something, if you put your mind to it, literally you can do
Mhm.
anything. You just got to stay consistent. You've got to, have those right people, the right circles around you that support what you're doing, and having good people that can speak positive into your life, and, just continuing to push. So I would say consistency and showing that being consistent in my drive is really like what, in my opinion, is going to help for the part that I'm bringing to the table, is going to help to close that gap. And then also, other women like Melina Moy, who's one of my mentors. She is doing monumental things for
Mhm.
Black women, and then Diamond doing monumental things for Black women. So I think just like that representation on all levels, no matter if you are your own manager or your own lawyer, or if you playing, in a band, or if you're, a PR, it doesn't really matter. Like Black women are doing so many amazing things right now in the music industry,
Right.
the entertainment industry as a whole. And I think that us
Absolutely.
just us existing and not taking no as the final answer and figuring out another way and just being determined is really what's helping to take that gap from here to eventually here.
Mhm.
Black women are, we're just, this is our turn up season. I think this is our glow up season.
Oh,
So
yes, definitely. I
yeah,
agree. Yeah,
yeah,
we're doing a lot of amazing things.
yeah.
One of the things I love about you is that you support like over 20 girls rock camps across the country. And I recently worked with one, Willie Mae Rock Camp in New York,
Yeah.
and I can say it's very rewarding. Is that one of the camps you also support?
No, we did. Well, we do support them, but we didn't get a chance to partner up with them this year. Hopefully we can next year. This year,
Right.
everything just came
Mhm.
crashing down when COVID happened. Everyone was like, "What?"
Right. Oh my God. COVID was the worst. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Yeah, but I do admire the work that goes into running these camps because there are a lot of children who are musically inclined and they don't even know it. But once they pick up that instrument, they can hear those notes. They can go back and forth and play it again until they can hear it. It's like the talent is amazing.
Yeah.
Um, what is your goal with working with these camps?
Um, I would say just representation. I think that a lot of these young girls, especially young Black girls in these camps, don't they need somebody, and I think this just in general across the world. Black girls need somebody that looks like them, doing something that they aspire to do. Everybody needs that. I think everybody needs that. But historically, I don't think that Black women have had that representation as much as other races in the world. And so I think that just existing in those spaces and, you know, taking the time out of all of our busy schedules. Like I have a very busy schedule, but for me, it's more important that I'm able to get on, you know, a Zoom call with these campers and teach them how to play, you know, a guitar chord, to teach them about what a power chord means, because I can only imagine, like, if I hadn't have gone to Spelman and learned about Sister Rosetta Thorpe and just like how to appreciate myself as a Black woman in this world, I don't know that I would be where I am now. And I think a lot of that had to do with just being in an environment where Black girls were nurtured and cared for, and people took the time out of their day to just, you know, show us how to utilize the greatness that is already in us. And so I think that doing that with these camps is like, it means more than anything to me, just to be able to represent for those Black girls and just existing and showing them you can literally do whatever you want to do. There's nobody in the world that's going to tell you otherwise, because everybody else in the world gets that, you know. So I think that Black girls need that as well, especially when, you know, we have to carry the brunt of the world on our shoulders, you know, our whole lives. So I just think that having those nurturing environments and people that care, genuinely care, you know, it means and does wonders for little girls at the age of 8, you know. So
So, does Spelman have a course about Sister Rosetta Tharpe, or you
no,
just learned about her along the way?
I learned about her along the way just from like studying. We have to, at Spelman you have oh Jesus, it's been 10 years. What's the ADW. ADW. Spelman at me. But everybody, we have to take ADW, and there's a lot of women's courses that you have to take as well. It's a requirement, not up for debate. If you don't take it in your first year, you're not gonna graduate. So there was a lot of stuff that we had to learn from those courses, and just learning about a lot of different Black women throughout any and every industry and history that I had no idea about, is really what opened up my mind to say, well, they was doing that over there, then what was happening in the music industry? Because I know Black women have always been magical, according to what I'm learning. So that's when I started doing my own research and being like, who, Rosetta Thorpe? Oh, hold up, yeah. So that's when I started, like, you know, just really, and like that kind of just opened up, you know, the rabbit hole of learning about a lot of other amazing, strong Black women in entertainment that never took no as a final answer. So yeah.
Awesome. Oh man, I wish I did go to a HBCU, because my aunt went to one. She went to Bethune-Cookman College back when it was called Bethune-Cookman College, but now it's called Bethune-Cookman University. So she went there. She graduated in 1999, and I got to see the campus. It was very beautiful.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it just shows me what type of values they instill in the students at HBCUs.
Yeah. Definitely.
So, I wanted to know if you had a message for the Black rockers community.
I would say, you know, we Black people we're very unique in that we bring a lot to this world. I think that there's something powerful about that, and learning, for all of us, learning how to harness that power and learning how to um, navigate through the bullshit of the world, you know, because there's always going to be somebody or something out there that's going to try to stop Black people from being great. But you know, one thing that we've always seen from, you know, pre-slavery to now is that Black people have not stopped. We are extremely resilient, and we don't give up the fight.
Absolutely.
When we want to, even when we're just tired, even when we're beaten down physically, mentally, you know, like all of those things. But one thing that always comes through is that we're resilient, and that we always bounce back, and we keep going, and we have a power inside of us that the world doesn't want us to fully know or grasp onto. And learning that and passing it down to your kids or to your nieces or to friends, you know, that are around you, I think is extremely powerful. And I think once we not once, but as we continue to embrace that through generations and generations, you know, we're just going to continue to push the envelope in ways that haven't been done before. Because I really do think that this world, especially America's beaches, is especially America, like it's crazy, dog. Like, but
Mhm.
I do think that we're on the verge of, you know, a new horizon of Black people just saying, look, we have been real patient with y'all for about 500 years.
Absolutely.
So at this point, you know, we keep asking, we're just gonna have to take it because I don't think y'all are listening. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we've been compliant, but you know, nobody should have to comply to bogus things when you're asking to be treated like a human. You know, it's kind of just
Right.
crazy. But I don't know. I digress. My whole point is that I think that my message would be to continue to empower yourself and others out there, to continue to educate yourself, because any industry that you're in, especially if it is dominated by white men, you know,
Mm-hmm.
education and knowing the industry that you're in is going to be key to pushing through and opening up and kicking down those doors that were built to stop us to begin with. So I would say just keep going. Remember, we're resilient, and let's just keep up the good fight.
Okay. Awesome. And where can we find you on social media?
At Guitar Gabby, guitar then Gabby, um,
Mm-hmm.
and the Txlips band. Most of the time, what I tell people to do, because a lot of people forget, because people hear tulips and then they want to spell it tulips, but there's an X in there.
Right.
So if you just Google Guitar Gabby, or if you Google the TX, it everything will pop up, and all the social medias, the website, all that kind of stuff will pop up for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview today. I really appreciate it. I had a great time chatting with you.
Likewise,
Mm.
thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Look forward to great things to come, and congratulations on your new releases.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And look forward to listening to everything.
Yes, sounds good. I'm looking forward to
You're
seeing
welcome.
it, and I'll definitely share on my network as well.
Also, have a nice evening.
You too. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.